Hey guys, Dustin Nguyen,
Hey, this is Scott Snyder,
This is Paul Dini.
and you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
and you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio, so stay tuned.
So, everyone, welcome to Bat Force Radio, the Batman/DC podcast with no limits. Tonight, for what is going to be a very unique, somewhat of a 2022 Christmas special for us, where it's going to be one of remembering. What I mean by remembering is we're going to focus tonight on a lot of creators in the comic book world, and mainly focusing on the Batman world, who we unfortunately lost this year, and in a way almost as if it was ghosts of Christmas past, present, future, and beyond, somewhat to remind, to talk about and to help us, have someone have a new perspective of things in life, because you have to remember that these are people that have worked to enhance the mythology of a fandom that we love so much, and that kind of stays with you forever, people's work and what they do. So, and we'll be focusing on that tonight. Especially notable mentions that we're going to be focusing on will be Neal Adams, George Perez, Tim Sale, Kevin Conroy, and we'll also be mentioning many others that we lost this year, unfortunately. So, I got Robin Cross up in Canada.
Hey.
I got Teases Believers over in Teaneck, New Jersey. Booka. I got Grandpa Batman over in Dallas, Texas.
Hey, yo, what's up?
Oh, shit. And I am Bat Force Times over in New York. So, a very Merry Christmas season as it is December 1st. Tonight, we're sitting here recording, I just, it's going to be a very interesting one. I want to talk about things. I want to talk about sad things in a good light, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
like you mentioned something a minute ago, and I think that's a good thing to focus on, like what these people left. Like that's a difference between, I don't want to say regular people, but people who aren't creators, like people who worked more traditional jobs, like doing the 9-to-5 kind of thing. They aren't really leaving something for the world to see after they're gone. Whereas all of these comic creators, filmmakers, everything, people who spend their lives creating an art form like that, they do leave something that's going to last forever and something that people can always remember them by.
Yeah, I think we should kick it off with earlier this year we lost Neal Adams. Now,
well, see, I got.
did you want to go?
Yeah,
through the
I
list
got.
first?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll go over it because it was a really terrible year, particularly for comic creators we lost, and internationally, comic creators, cartoonists all over the world. So many were lost over this past year. So, just to focus a bit on the creators of American comics, or creators who are at least very well known in American comics. We lost Brian Augustin February 1st. He was 67. Gotham by Gaslight. Tom Veitch February 18th at 80. Animal Man, Star Wars, stuff like that. Yeah, Neal Adams was April 28th. He was 80 as well. Then right after that, George Perez on May 6th. He was 67. That hit us hard. And then another one right after that, Tim Sale on June 16th. Tim was only 66. And Alan Grant on July 20th.
Oh,
Alan was 73. Kim Jong-gi, October 3rd. He was 47, and if anyone saw he passed right before New York Comic Con, and there are photos and videos that they still had his booth because he was supposed to be at New York Comic Con, and all of these other creators spent the weekend writing letters to him on his table and leaving flowers, and just became this this spot for people to come and say goodbye. Kevin O'Neill, November 7th, he was 68. Carlos Pacheco, November 9th at 60. And then not a comic creator, but it's hard to get any bigger in the comic world and the Batman world specifically, Kevin Conroy on November 10th. That's a tough year.
Yeah, that is that might be one of this might go down in history as one of the toughest years in comic book history. I mean, that's
a lot of talent and
it's a lot of talent spread across a lot of different publishers and books and time, eras, so
yeah, it's a lot of talent, a lot of legacies, like you guys mentioned. They leave behind a legacy of excellence, and some of their most iconic work is still some of the most revered stories of all time, not just Batman, but in comics in general.
Yeah. And it's weird looking back as someone who appreciates their work. I never really, not like it would be normal to think about it anyway, but I never really thought about the day where I would be talking about them being gone. You know what I mean? You experience their work and you never think about the creator being gone, but it's life, it's reality. And I think that's why the art forms are such great functions in life and society and culture, because it outlives, I guess Michelangelo said, the work outlives the person, the work outlives the creator. So that's how I like to look at it, is that the work outlives the creator, but also keeps them around in a certain way. Like Neil Adams, to segue into that. I mean, like Neil fucking Adams. I mean, this guy is a legend, and we're not using the legend loosely at all tonight, but these men were legends. Neil, we all the stories about Neil Adams. The way he went to bat for the creators of Superman when they were piss poor, and DC was cashing in. He's probably. He could be the most important artist in Batman's history. Important because he was the first one to really draw that anatomically correct. I mean, you look at the stuff he did in the 70s, that's some of the most iconic Batman work ever. And it still holds up. I mean, he also brought Frank Miller in. Right. So the guy in this genre, I mean, it's Neil Adams.
Yeah, not only the effect he had on other creators, like the way Frank talks about him, and we did an episode about Neil after he passed, and we had words from a handful of other creators, and how many people are talked about like him, and the contributions, not only like you mentioned, to the industry, the way he advanced things, like Siegel and Schuster getting paid, which led to all of that snowballing to other creators later on, and creators getting their original work back after submitting it for being published, and then the characters that he created, like Ra's al Ghul and all this stuff that he did.
Yeah. Yes, and Talia, right? And
one thing I remember about Neil was his cover work.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, his covers. I mean, you bought the issues. He's one of the I guess one of the first modern artists, and I say that meaning that, what was he like in the Bronze era?
Bronze,
where his covers really sold the issues, and he brought that realistic, anatomically more correct Batman, but he also brought helped bring Batman back to his more kind of, I guess, noir creature of the night look. and you know, just his covers. I remember as a kid. I wasn't born. I was born in the 70s, but I didn't start reading comics until like the 80s. But I would go down to a local penny shop, and they had all these old issues, and I would just see all those covers. And now, those are the ones that I hunt out when I go to a shop.
Oof, they're going.
Yeah, and meeting him live a couple times. Everyone has their own Neal Adams stories, and those were always entertaining to listen to people's Neal Adams stories. But he was the giant that every artist after him whose shoulders stood upon. And, he influenced so many people, whether they realize it or not. But there are plenty of artists and creators, and I think we're going to talk about one later who, I think their art really reflected upon Neal's, and they found that, wow, here's a guy who, his books sell. DC was like, your books sell. We're going to put more of your art in here, and we want everybody else to kind of draw like you, and really set the tone for that era.
Yeah, I think without Neal, whole
look at that.
Like without Neal, the whole industry doesn't change, right? Because he was the one that taught and set the bar for artists to represent themselves, and he was probably one of the first artists to sell a signature, which he did until probably one of his last days. There's no artist alley without Neal Adams.
Can't knock the hustle, that's for sure. Yeah.
Right. Well, right. That opened the gates. Like he was one of these first guys that became a brand, because when I looked up information on him a while ago, like he comes from an advertising background, and you could see how he transitioned and made Batman better because of that. Because if you really think about the composition and the way that he sells it, and the illumination, and like the hyper realism, even though it's more illustrative, like there's a story, and it's done as an engineer, which
I'm sorry,
he was the first one to do that before anyone else, where it's not pulpy and goofy and slapstick anymore. This is like in real life situation where
top 5 of Batman artists all time, easily Neal Adams, top 5.
His books definitely move the needle. You know what I mean? Like, when his books come out, they sold.
People had to up their game.
And it was at an important time for that to happen too, because the stuff that he and Denny O'Neil were doing, that came, their stuff on Batman came in the wake of the 66 TV series ending. And a big part of the fan base went away with that show. Comics, the sales of the comics went down, and they took that opportunity. Well, okay, let's turn the comics away from this kind of, the campy stuff that's been going on, and let's bring it back to darkness.
Denny O'Neil said like they wanted to bring it back to the Finger Kane era, where it was more serious. It was taken more seriously. And they were kind of like the new Kane and Finger was Denny O'Neil and Neal Adams. And like like one of my favorite covers, man, is like, I forgot what number it is, but it's Batman's running, and I think it's the first appearance of League of Shadows, and they're jumping from the trees, and they have like knives or machetes or something, and Batman's running from. And I'm like, that's just so like designed so well and drawn so well. Like Neal was like he was like a perfectionist without even trying too hard. He would, and he taught a lot of other guys how to. However, look, we wouldn't have a Norm Brayfogle if we didn't have a Neal Adams, man.
Right.
And so Norm was a heavy hitter too, man. And he's from the school of Neal Adams, so Neal Adams' influence across this genre just stretches so far that he was an undeniable giant, and he was a hustler, man. He was a straight shooter. And I had a good experience with him, and I never wanted to talk to him again because I wanted to always remember having a good experience with him. And we were laughing because he did the zombie Batman for the Batman Black and White Volume 4.
Yeah.
And he had prints of it, and I had a print being signed by him, and he looked at it and he goes, I hate this fucking thing.
Yeah, Marilyn made him do those because she knew they'd be popular.
I love, and I go, yo, you know the black and white statue just came out, right? And he's like, really? Oh, he's like, I don't know, shit. And we're cracking up, and it was nice, and I think all right, so Neil, it's funny. I think he's like on a personal level in smaller settings. I think he's much more laid back because he loved the local comic shop Royal Collectibles over in Queens here, and he always did in-stores over there, and he was just so laid back and chill with everyone when he went to Royal Collectibles, and that was cool. Like he was doing it. Wow, it's crazy to think about how close it was to his until he passed away, but that says a lot.
He did that con that you and I went to the week before the pandemic went down.
Yeah,
at that little high school. Like, so no matter how big or small any show was, like, and I remember like in the memorial show that we had, even Tom referenced like when he was at SDCC, the guy couldn't have a 5-foot section. He had to have like 18 feet yay high of all his stuff, and you could tell he was about the business. But every time that I've seen him, I never really had a personal interaction with him, but he was always drawing. Always hustling, always drawing, like down to him in the 80s, like, and you can tell that he's instilled that in his family because he has a daughter and a son. He has a couple kids that can draw really well, and I think he's been ingrained, and he comes from that school that doesn't exist anymore, where you just hustle, and no matter, even though you're on top of the mountain, you have to still carve it out and still grind and do work and just become better. What age you are, there's room for evolution.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that to that extent, but you're right. He actually was always drawing, and always. And he, some people might talk a little shit based on how they feel about him, but you know what? He fought for creators, and how many people can you say fought that hard for creators and rights? Like, my favorite story is the famous story when, the Superman was on Broadway. I guess it was a play or something, and he was talking to one of the creators, and he was like, "Oh, that's great! Isn't it amazing how like Superman's on Broadway? This is so big." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I know. I'm really happy." He's like, "Oh, so did you see it yet? How was he?" Goes, and then the guy, I don't know if it was Siegel Schuster, but he said, "Oh no, I can't afford that," and that like infuriated Neil on how like their creation was making so much money for everyone, and these guys were like, piss poor. And then he like just like stormed board meetings and just went to like the guy's from old Canarsie, Brooklyn. Okay, so this guy's no nonsense. So I could relate to that mentality sometimes where it's you don't really give a fuck about what people think as long as you have your integrity in check and you're grinding. Then I mean the work speaks for itself anyway.
Yeah, like, he's definitely a guy that earned his keep from day one, and like you said, there's no Norm Brayfogle, there's no Frank Miller without his influence and his help. Like, I remember hearing that Frank saw him as even though like the age was not that far, but he's pretty much like an older brother or father figure to Frank.
Frank,
because he gave him that opportunity.
Well, what I like is how the story was told was Frank, Frank can't draw that well. He just can't. I'm sorry. But Neil Adams didn't give up on him in the sense that he kept correcting his work and having him come back and worked with him. Because, and that's cool. Like that story about and he got Frank his first industry job, I believe. So, the Ghost of Christmas Past, the great Neil Adams. It sucks. That's I guess we all they can't live forever, but his work, it's that'll live forever. That Batman that you saw, that classic Batman, that 70s Batman, that beautiful blue and gray, and that cape and those ears and that perfect anatomically correct.
He always had the coolest poses.
Yes.
He never really drew a Batman that was just kind of standing there. He always had him in some angle or, motion that really made it expressive.
Yeah. I think we just upped the prices a little more for his back issues now, as if they're not inflated enough already. We got a lot of listeners. I want some of that shit too.
Got some competition now. They're gonna be going.
I know. Slabbing and shit. No, and before we say goodbye to Ghost of Christmas Past, don't forget that iconic Joker card cover he did, which is you don't get much more iconic than that. The Joker playing card. Yeah, there it is. Look at that. I mean, god damn. I mean, from an illustrative and a graphic design standpoint, you really can't get better than that. That's just.
I mean, again, he comes from the world of advertising, so it's like this is what separates him from everyone else. He has that advantage. He has that perspective, where he really illuminates these characters. And what I was gonna say before is too, it's like the beauty of. You say the art lives on, but forever, like there's always been these homage covers, and it always is rooted from guys like Neil Adams or Todd McFarlane. But there's and it's gonna happen forever. Like there's always gonna be an homage cover based on all these classic covers because he just raised that bar.
This cover was actually used by Fan Expo for their exclusives, and I picked up they just changed the city name. Mine says "Look out, Dallas, Joker's back in town."
Yeah, I have Toronto.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is cool. That's very cool.
Yeah,
it's like a template almost. So
yeah,
shit. They do that. I mean, they would never. They don't have one in New York, but New York would be awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to Neil. This the GOAT. We it's funny because it's like this year we didn't even have enough time to process losing one creator before the next one passed, it feels like, so we just got to keep the perspective. And I happy to have that Neil Adams omnibus. Actually, I gotta flip through that later, which I think he recolored. Shout out to Neil up there, always making a check for himself too. I love that guy. He actually recolored the whole damn thing so he could get. The old colors were good though, but I guess he had a different vision. So, and like the zombie Batman short story he drew and Batman Black and White Volume 4 is definitely worth checking out because it's pretty deep and it's it's so cool how he draws like in a scratchy pencily format sometimes. So yeah, shout out Neil. Ghost. So for our next Ghost of Christmas, we have the great George Perez, which was shortly after Neil Adams, and man, what another blow, man. This guy's what he contributed to the genre as well is just massive. I'm a huge Deathstroke fan, and that's pretty much Deathstroke's daddy is George Perez.
Yeah, the stuff that along with Marv Wolfman, the two of them together created so much stuff. So you had Deathstroke, Nightwing, the Teen Titans, Cyborg, Starfire, Raven. It just crazy.
You know what? He drew women really well too.
His Wonder Woman was probably one of my favorite versions of that character.
Oh, and the big hair on Starfire that he drew in the 80s and all that. Just that I mean, you know, let's just like to talk about George Perez is he had a long list of accomplishments in the genre, and I think, you know, for all the Nightwing fans, because Nightwing has a massive following, that must have been a tough blow too, you know, because that's really what started it all. I mean, he was like your comic book artist, you know. He had that flair about him, you know, that classic. You know, he was good at drawing individuals, but he's also good at drawing teams. Not everyone can really do both, and
you'll hear a lot of artists not really enjoy working on team books because it can be difficult.
Yeah,
and
it's
the number of big
because
things
I mean, you've got to be consistent with so many characters versus like you know a Batman where you can draw Batman and a couple of rogues, but with a team book you've got to draw a whole squad consistently throughout the book. And he did that on one of the most iconic event stories in Infinite Crisis, right? I mean,
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah. I mean, that was a monster undertaking.
Yeah. And he was just that good.
Yeah, to me, you know, when I reflect back to his work, he is definitely, to me, he's like the face of the 80s. You know, it's like,
yes,
when I see his work, I think of like, automatically, I just think of like the Kenner toy line, like growing up, seeing like all those toys and the Robins and all these iterations. Like without his art style, there's no other influences for these other major things. And like Grant said, like the complexity of like just looking at this cover, like it's not a one shot. This is like a very multi-layered piece. You know, this is very complex, and he's consistent, and he makes it look easy. And you know, just from what I've seen, just on video and people, just speaking about him and just seeing him, I think the thing that's most tragic about this is he knew that he had kind of a time frame to work with.
Right.
It's almost like a doomsday clock, you know. It's like it's not something that just suddenly happened. It's like, hey, I have this much time to live, and that's, to me, it's so sobering because it's like he went on a farewell tour for like his last 3 months. And to me, that's kind of heartbreaking, but it's also almost a gift. And he went out with so much integrity where he just wanted to just be with his family at the end. But he went on a farewell tour where he did that one final con where everyone was trying to get everything signed. And, you know, I remember seeing Jim Lee create a post where he was at DC Studios and posing in front of like the logo, and Jim was talking that he had lunch with him, and it just makes you just think about the state of affairs, like the fact that life is just valuable. You know, it's like you can't take it for granted where you see someone like him that has done something so monumental, and he could have had another 20 years in front of him, and you know he would have just continued just to create artwork, you know. So we got robbed.
He also wore the coolest shirts.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. He was that party guy, you know, button up shirt guy.
Yeah, and
another guy from New York, you know. It's like,
and who else could make disco stances and pirate boots look cool? You know, it's like the guy was just he was a great.
And he seemed, from what I saw and what I've read, another good guy. Like I've never heard one bad thing.
Well, yeah,
like,
I mean,
he was hugging fans and embracing, and he, you know.
Yeah, when he passed, you know, someone is just not just a monumental talent, but just a, well respected and loved individual. When you see all these artists and creators and just fans just giving a huge outpouring of appreciation for what he's meant to them when he passed. And I mean, I saw people that I didn't even think would, like his artwork. All these various creators talking about, him and what he meant to them and how he helped them and all this stuff. So I was like, wow, this guy was really, really another icon,
Yeah.
He just seemed like a guy that had no ego, like just one of those guys that just embraced people. And his work spoke, you don't need him to talk. The work speaks for itself.
Yeah, he has a big resume.
Yeah.
Marvel and DC, he has really big. He left his mark with both the big two, and
right.
It's and I've always heard good things about him, and he seemed to have a lot of good energy, and he's just did some iconic work, and that I like we kind of knew what was going to happen because of when he said he was retiring from like conventions and working, and then the news came out. But I don't think anything ever really gets you ready to lose another one. But he, like I said, that I'm a huge Deathstroke fan, and his version is still one of the best. Just the original, just so badass. Like that was.
Oh, I was gonna say, it makes me want to watch Wonder Woman 1984 again. And as much as it wasn't well received, but that whole movie is just so influenced by his work. Like the golden suit of Wonder Woman, and that's him, 1984. Like that's that whole era. That's his monument right there. So
it's funny because when you do work 80s work when it was being done or whatever, it's like it could go one of two ways, and his work went in the good way of the really good way.
Like
some of that shit doesn't age well.
There's that borderline. There's that borderline where it could be a little cheesy or it could really be something different.
It could age, well, or it could go the other way when it comes to 80s stuff, because 80s like fashion, in style and whatever, it's so extreme that it could go one of two ways. But he incorporated a good amount of it into his work, Teen Titan stuff, which is very popular, by the way. It just, it translates over to animation and everything. So, yeah.
To me, I feel like he has the best depiction of Robin. Like, I love that classic Robin look from him.
Yeah. Yeah, he did that pretty well. He did do a good Robin.
And also Disco Nightwing.
Disco Dick.
So moving on to the Ghost of Christmas Future, the visionary, who I consider the most quote unquote interesting Batman artist of all time, is the great Tim Sale, the artist of The Long Halloween, which might be the most read Batman story of all time. Not sure how we would get those stats. Dark Victory, The Haunted Knight, Catwoman When in Rome. He also did a lot of work over at Marvel. How does it go? Is it Spider-Man Red, Daredevil Yellow? I don't know if I'm getting these right. He also did Hulk.
Captain America Blue.
Yeah, they Captain America Blue. He did
work for Hulk Gray. Is that what?
I think he did Hulk as well. But Tim Sale's I think Tim Sale has to be the most effectively moody Batman artist ever. When cinematically, the use of space, shadow, the simplicity that does so much, just every man. I can't even think about how. I was thinking earlier how I'll never see Neil Adams' big ass table at a convention again, and I'll never see another brand new Tim Sale panel or cover, which is like, I don't even know how to. That's that's kind of sobering, because man, movies have been based on this man's artwork. The major Batman movies and the writing. I mean, Jeff Loeb writes a lot for screen, so he needed someone that, in terms of the comic book format, Jeff needed someone that could really handle his story visually. The cinematic effect of it into comic books, and Tim Sale's, I'm telling you, the space, the mood, the stylized rogues gallery, just like, I don't think anyone handled silence in a comic book panel the way Tim Sale did, man. Like if you guys are, anyone listening, you guys are like really into Batman and don't have it yet, you should get the Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale omnibus, which pretty much has everything in it, and just, you'll always, it's like watching a movie but in the comic book version. The guy, very, very interesting person visually. I mean, the Joker teeth, he's the guy who started the exaggerated vegetation that came off of Poison Ivy, and countless other elements that are iconic and visually for Batman from the stories. Tim Sale is that guy. Tim Sale is like the noir / Halloween Batman artist, and I don't know. It's crazy to think that who I found to be the most interesting. I feel very blessed that we've had Tim Sale on our podcast, because I don't think there's any other podcast out there that's had Tim Sale on. It's comic book related. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. And that was a very interesting night.
Yeah, it was.
That episode has some of the best sound bites of any we've ever done.
But at least I got to express how much his work meant to me on the show. And before I was able to finish, he said something like, "Who are you talking about, Frank Miller?" or something. But yeah, that's my guy, and I will always just read and flip through his work and just to sit there and appreciate his work, because it just takes you to this calm, quiet, somewhat dark and mysterious Gotham. He just takes you there, like everything about it. The rain, the size of the tombstones, the everything. I don't know what.
What I found most interesting about Tim's work, he's very much, and I think he even acknowledges it. Kind of like Kelly Jones. He found himself, and he found what makes it interesting to him to draw, because you could see, going back to that Daredevil yellow cover, you can see where he can draw the architecture as tight and realistic as anybody, and then draw the characters kind of in, his own style.
Yeah.
And I always loved that. I love that, knowing that he's a guy that, yeah, I could draw this way if you want me to, but if I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make it interesting to me, and this is how I do it. He found himself, he found his style, and it never wavered. You knew when you were reading one of his books, that's a Tim Sale book.
Yes. I always said that, like, you could have there's like countless artists that have drawn Batman for DC over generations, but very few like Kelly Jones and Tim Sale, where you could see their work across a long room and know exactly who it is.
Yeah, you know exactly who it is, and he did some off the wall, not real popular work, but like with Matt Wagner, he did a series of Grendel. I don't know if you guys know who Grendel is, but he's a really cool kind of noir, I don't know, anti-hero type guy. But even that, I mean, it's just beautiful. Some of his covers, the Shadow and Batman covers that he did for that series, amazing. I love them.
Yeah.
But yeah, his style, like you said, you're not going to find another one of Tim to come along, not for a good while, at least.
Well, he was very inventive. Like, you look at what he did with the Rogues Gallery. He made them his own. So you have the Joker teeth, exaggerated vegetation with Ivy. You have the very abnormally short razor, sharp teeth on, a short penguin with razor sharp teeth.
Yeah.
Very. His scarecrow is super iconic. He made the Riddler like really scrawny and like wimpy and unnerving, and then he made everything so visually interesting without having to go too much in detail. He just understood the assignment, like it was so effective in the simplicity of it. And like things like, if you read The Haunted Knight, it's the one with
that image right there. I love that.
Yeah.
For the listeners if you're just hearing this, we're looking at some of his artwork, and the image just showed up of the splash page where Scarecrow is on the horse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, a beautiful masterpiece in, shadow, negative spacing, but also, the imagery of a powerful horse rearing up with its rider, and the
Arkham Asylum gate in the background.
Arkham Asylum in the background, and a very scary Scarecrow.
Yeah,
this huge hat.
If you've just been listening, we've had a lot of visual aids in this episode, and I've had my microphone on mute because I've been pulling up a lot of pictures. So do me a favor and watch the video.
Yeah, this is on YouTube as well. So,
but, like it's just the subtle things too. Like in The Haunted Knight with the Mad Hatter, the Mad Hatter episode, where there's a flashback of when young Bruce was with his mother by a windowsill, and they were sitting there, and she was reading him Alice in Wonderland. And then you see that same windowsill later on when it's an adult Bruce by himself, and he's going through Alice in Wonderland with like the rain coming down outside of the window. And it's just those little things that always just stood with me, like the quiet nature of his panels, of the moment. I don't know. It's something you really got to look at and experience. No other, as good as so many are, no other artist that has drawn Batman has ever really done that to me the way Tim Sale has done it. They always say, don't be sorry, don't be sad that it's over, be happy that it happens. And that is definitely the avenue I want to take tonight as the Ghost of Christmas Future hovers over us with this one, because Tim Sale was my guy. I was lucky to meet him and tell him how much his work meant to me. I was lucky to do the same thing on the podcast again, and we met his wife, didn't we, Gramps?
Right? Yeah, we met his wife at New York Comic Con. Was that 2015?
Yeah, and she was so proud of him. And
oh yeah,
Tim, he'd have the jar out, so like I think the first 2 signatures were free, but then anyone after that, he would have a suggested donation for, I think, a creators funds. What was the creators fund called? There was, Robin, do you know which one?
I forget what it was now, but a lot of the creators were collecting donations for that.
Yeah, so he was a good guy too. His wife was so proud of him, and
she would tell us about his whole process, and she'd be like, "Oh, I don't see him through most of the day. He spends all his time in his office, and he reads all these like architecture and World War II books to study the vehicles and the architecture, and it was kind of cool. You know, we got a little peek behind the curtain because, you know, obviously an artist is not going to tell you their secrets or their methods, but she just went on, and, you know, she could tell that we were sincerely there.
Yeah.
You know, we wanted to meet him, but I guess he wasn't feeling well, or he was running late or whatever.
Yeah.
And
he's very humble. He was a very humble guy. Like he was kind of you know, he had a sense of humor too, and he was just. I remember, you know, Legends did get a Bad Force Legends did get a Mr. Freeze commission from him, which is awesome. That he must cherish that. You know, he better have me in his will, because you know. No, I'm just kidding, but I remember one. Oh God, I remember there was original artwork, and there was this one page from Haunted Night, and there was nothing over the top, but it was like these a page with cool images of Bruce Wayne walking through Wayne Manor, and then talking about Halloween coming, and, you know, just, it was a really nice page though, and it was only like a few hundred, maybe like 2 something, under 3, but it was sold already, right? I was like, motherfucker, that would have been that would have been a nice original page to have, but
I don't know if you guys will be able to hear this. I should have downloaded it onto the computer to just play it through, but I'll just play it from my phone into the microphone. So this is when Tim was on the show, and we were talking about was it the Long Halloween Absolute or something like that?
Yes,
where he was talking about when he received it, and calling up Jeff Loeb. So tell me if you guys can hear this or not.
And actually, the first thing that Jeff called me right away and said, "Have you seen this motherfucker?"
Yeah, because it was so the Omni was so big. He's like, "Have you seen this motherfucker?"
we just heard Bad Force Times
laugh with himself,
laughing, and then him laughing in real life.
It's like Laughception.
It's like Inception. Yeah,
it's like a laugh reverb.
It's like a ripple through the space-time continuum. But yes, oh man, that was so funny when he said that. Man,
I wanted to say before. I think it was like maybe 2019 or maybe before. Duncan and I got to go to Terrific Con in Connecticut, and Tim was there. Actually, no, I think it was 2020, because COVID was still going around, and we were able to go to these shows with the mask or not wear the mask, and it was in Connecticut. It was a long drive, but Tim was there, and the con wasn't crazy, and I got a lot of time to like talk to him for a little bit. And that was one of the first times that I really got to really talk to him. And it was the last time. And I'm willing to bet I think that's probably one of his last shows that he did. And I always think back, like, man, like, I wish I knew this was the last time, because I remember Duncan and I were talking to him about, like, NYCC. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, did he start to think that he was starting to get sick at that time? So I was really fortunate that I had that moment, and that I got some things signed, and I got a lot of things that were personal. Excuse me. You said, like, you know, before, like, he would do the first few for free, and the ones that were for free were always personalized. That was like kind of his thing. So
yeah,
I'm thankful that I have those pieces, you know, like ordinarily, like when you get that done, you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. But man, what a gift, you know. It's like you think that you get another opportunity to see that guy, and that was the last time. So I really cherish that moment where I got to really talk to him for a good 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and I think
you just never know.
Yeah, I think Tim didn't. You know, this is just guessing. I don't know that he loved the whole travel and hotel aspect of doing cons, because a couple times I chatted with him at cons, and you know he hadn't enjoyed the flight, and you know the hotel wasn't great. So You could tell that he enjoyed the time being at the con, but yeah, I don't think he loved the traveling aspect of it, the being on the road and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think he would have rather have been at home.
Yeah. He
But he was doing it anyway, and he was there for all the fans.
Yeah.
And you know, like we said before, like you think about the newest Batman movie, without his influence, that whole movie would have been different. I remember seeing the movie in IMAX, and they were handing out the Long Halloween variant.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was like, damn, that's fucking awesome, you know? So
yeah.
It's all Tim. I mean, I think that movie is probably 80% Tim Sale. It's all Long Halloween.
Yeah. Plus, we also got an animated Long Halloween movie, which is cool. You know,
a two-parter.
Quick shout out Sammy Wormhands from Bad Fan Addict Podcast, who sent me a sign print that he found on the con. That was nice, very nice of him. You know, it felt like a sympathy card, you know, at funerals, like like a really big, awesome looking one, because you know, just it was tough, man. It like that, like, you know, it's to have a creator where you just want. Sometimes you just open the book and stare at their work. You don't even got to read, you know. Just and you know, as if Sale was that guy. Loved the how Tim Sale was synonymous with Halloween and Batman for me, you know, and just can't be, you know, try not to be too sad that it's over. Just be happy that it happened. Happy that we got, you know, three long runs that connect, and also Catwoman went in Rome. You know, and that I got to meet him and you know, talk with him and all that, you know.
I mean, he also did that Long Halloween special this year, so it's we got lucky that even happened, and that we got like a little taste of
a little send off.
Yeah, for sure. Like it was built around obviously the hype of the movie, but yeah, he did like another extension of that. It's like, man, we're lucky, like you said, we're lucky that it happened. It's a gift. Because here and there, like you would see, you know, within like maybe like when the New 52 came in, he did that whole nice run of like covers in the beginning. And it would kind of just come in and out, but we got like a quick, small little, you know, like a one shot. But
the funny story about those, he did some Rebirth covers.
Yeah, I think that was what you meant.
Was
that at the beginning of Rebirth?
You remember when we asked him, like, and he told us, he was like, "Yeah, DC called up and said, do you want to do some covers?" And I was like,
"Fucking right,
fuck yeah!" He's like, "Well, fuck yeah."
Because they were awesome. They were like from like, I don't know, issue 5 to 12. There were like 7 in a row of just Tim Sale, you know. So
you know what, Tim Sale was an outlier. He had his own lane, you know, like a lot of these, as good as these other artists are that work on comics and Batman, and they're great, they're phenomenal, but like, you know, you only have one Tim Sale, you know, you only have one Kelly Jones, you know, you only have one Paul Pope. So it's like, you know, Tim was in his own lane, and he was very well respected, and you know,
like always, you know, he's not one of those guys that could just be a part of like a comic run with 2 or 3 other artists, where all these guys nowadays make everything look so seamless, and you have to do a double take, like, oh wait, did like Jorge Fornes do this, or who did this? Like, if Tim Sale did it, it's his shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like you pull the e-brake. There's no other like. He can't jump in on a book with other people.
Yeah, the thing is, Kelly Jones explains to me really well, because I always tell Kelly Jones how much I love his work when he's on, and he goes, thank you. He's just like, I really appreciate it. The thing is, you know, I don't aim to be the most technical guy like these other guys. I'm an idea guy, and that's what makes it stand out. And Tim Sale was an idea guy. You know, you don't have to be anatomically correct all the time, or everything got to be perfect and polished. It's the idea, the design that lures you in, and you know,
exactly. Like Tim what did Kelly Jones say? He said, "I only have to do 80%, and then you, the reader, fill it in with the other 20." That's
wow, yeah.
That's kind of what how Tim.
It is what Tim was doing because of all the space he left for you. You know,
right?
Yeah.
And Tim would do a thing where like 3/4 of a page had the shadows of the window panes across everything.
Yeah.
And that just made that page really memorable.
I know that's the kind of stuff I love. It's just so simple and effective, and he's right. You fill it in, don't you? He takes you. He kind of puts you in that space as well. For me, you know, he puts you in that space, and he, like I said, he understood the assignment, and he delivered, and I'm happy with what we got. I read it all the time, especially in October. So, and I will, and you know, continue to do so. That's why he's the ghost of Christmas future. So, to Tim, yeah, that was, and as if we didn't have enough heartache and torture this year. Like, goddamn. The voice, the definitive voice of Batman, never to be contested. The only person that's probably ever going to go down to play Batman in animation, animated movies, video games, and live action. The great Kevin Conroy we lost this year.
Man.
I mean, God damn, like legends, you know, like by all, with every strength of the definition of the word, these guys were like legends of the Dark Knight, you know. And Kevin Conroy, man, I mean, when you hear that voice now, it's kind of haunting, you know. It's like that guy was Batman. Kevin Conroy was Batman. You know, like,
not only for fans is he the voice that everyone hears, but how many comic creators, when they're writing and drawing those pages, that's the voice that they hear.
You know what? The way he goes from Bruce Wayne to Batman, and Batman to Bruce Wayne is just so, man. He's another guy who understood the assignment. Like, wow. Just like there's been a lot of other good voices for Batman, but man, no one can come close to his voice and understanding of the portrayal of Batman. You know, we needed audiobooks from that guy. You know?
And there was no example, like there was no one, this person did this before, I'm going to do my version of that. No one had done what he did.
So he originally read for Mr. Freeze, and or was it the Joker? One of the two. It was a Rogue, I remember, and ultimately they wanted him to be Batman. And man, that was it. I mean, you couldn't, any comic book you read, you heard his voice. You know, you heard Kevin Conroy's voice, and he has a very cool story. You know, how, from what we understand, like, you know, reading all a lot about his background and everything like that. And, you know, he had what was it? He kind of had problems early on because he was, like, I guess, openly gay, and it was getting more difficult to get roles or whatnot. And then he would ultimately be the people's champion, you know. He also dormed with Christopher Reeves and Robin Williams.
Yep.
You have Batman, Superman,
and
Peter Pan. So, like, man.
And someone who like another guy that was at all the cons. Like you could always go to a con and be able to meet Kevin.
Yeah, if you're able to wait on that line, which I did one year, and I met him, and he was very tired. He was tired, but man, he was a very sweet, genuine man. He was a very sweet man, and he was very appreciative. Like he understood that, you know, his fans kept him going, kept him around, and he appreciated everyone so much. He really did. And he took a lot of pride in playing Batman. On every signature you probably see he writes "I am Batman." So or a lot of his signatures he writes I am Batman, and he was, you know, and is, you know, that voice just echoes through anyone that is a fan of you know, one of the most celebrated animes.
Cool. And a funny thing, so like a lot of voice actors, they're putting on, you know, that voice. They're making a voice to do those characters.
Mm-hmm.
But Kevin's voice was so similar to his Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like, so when Kevin was speaking, you could hear him, you know, if he walked into the room at the con, and you heard him saying something, you knew, oh, Batman's here now.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. When he would walk in a room, and the couple times that I met him, he did some panels. But even out on the floor, it was just like wherever he was, all eyes were always on him because people were like, "That's Batman.
That's right Batman.
There. That's Batman. That's Batman." It was so cool. It was just almost surreal sometimes. Meeting him at cons, I would just, you know, close your eyes and be like, "Oh my God, Batman is right in front of me."
Yeah.
The first press thing that I got to do for a con, maybe 6-7 years ago or something, I don't know. So the way they would do these things is you show up at, you know, the conference room at you know, whatever hotel that they're using for it, and you walk into the room and you check in, and then they let you go into the room and you find what table has your name card at it. So there'll be like 5 chairs at a table, and you find which one has your name card and sit down there, and half the room is tables, the other half is like backdrops with the con logo and everything for people to do like on camera interviews. And then they would bring in a bunch of guests from the con, and they would circle them around table to table. So, you know, you would have someone would come and sit down at your table, and you and the other people that were at that table would get, you know, however long they had, you know, maybe it was 10 minutes, maybe it was 15 minutes, and, you know, chat with that person. And then one of the people running it would come along and tell them, okay, we have to move you along to the next table now. So say goodbye to them, and they would go off, and then someone else would come and sit down there. So the first one of those that I did, Kevin was there, and so sitting there, and I have the I was lucky to have the empty chair that the guest came and sat down at was beside me. So, you know, we're sitting there, and Greg Capullo comes and sits at our table, and then it was an actor from American Horror Story, and then it was David Meredith Finch, and then an actor from Walking Dead, and then they get up, and we're waiting to see who's coming to our table next, and someone comes and sits down beside me, and it's Kevin Conroy. And a point comes in the conversation. I can't remember what I said, but it elicited from Kevin like a full-on belly laugh, and just the moment of hearing Batman sitting beside you laughing was just so bizarre.
Wow. I can't. Yeah, that. I don't know. I just. I mean, you know, how often we watch the animated series every, you know, all the time here and there, and you know, you hear that voice. Now you watch it, and it's like, it's just crazy. Like, you know what? The most hard-hitting thing I saw on the internet was, you know, that iconic scene where he's standing over the building and there's thunder in the background or lightning, whatever. Yeah. Someone edited it where everything's there but Batman. and I was like, ouch, that like
Oh,
that's a stinger. Yeah. But
I think after it happened, just seeing a lot of things on Instagram, a lot of his cameo speeches that he gifted, or that he did for people, were really incredible, because you can just tell he went above and beyond, and he gave a lot of motivational pep talks to people that were down. And if you could just go on YouTube and kind of just hear what he's done for a lot of people, they're really just amazing segments, every little tidbit. Because I watched like a handful of them, and I was like, man, what an incredible person. Like, he really cared about the fans and really just making a small difference in someone's life.
Yeah, I think
And again, like towards the end, we said that on G&G last week. He did eventually publicly, in a very subtle, tasteful way, come out of the closet, and DC supported him. And they did a whole pride campaign around it, but he was a voice for that part. And I think towards the end of his life, that was something that he wanted to kind of make sure that it was out there, as like a send off, just to tell everyone that's who he was, like, there's no hiding it. And he wanted to support that community as well. So to me, that was very powerful. That was like the ultimate send off for him. It makes me think, like, how long did he know that he was sick? Was it 2 or 3 years? Was it a year? My gut feeling is telling me that he probably knew about this for a long time.
yeah.
Well, I forgot who it was, but I saw a post on Instagram where another colleague of his or something said that he had spoken with their college creative class just 3 weeks before his passing, and he was still, passionate and kind and generous with his time. So even if he knew, and he likely did, that his time was limited, he was still generous enough to make time for others.
Yeah,
that says a lot.
Sure. So, especially in your last days, it's like you spend those last moments just giving back, and that's a testament to the type of person that he was, for sure.
And I've been putting up some photos here for those watching the video version of this, of the Arkham games, because not only was he so iconic for the animated series, but he had that ability to stay around and to not only be doing a series of video games that was largely for an entirely different generation of fans who, a lot of people who were introduced to Batman from those games didn't know the animated series, or at least hadn't watched it. And for him to have been the driving force of not only a series of Batman games, but the best comic video games that still have been made.
Sure.
Well, like we talked about on our Grumps and Gramps episode previous, go check it out on YouTube. But he was a gate.
No, just listen to this one.
He was a gateway for several people to Batman. Jesus talked about how he was, a sense of comfort. When he would come home from school, he had that time where he would watch the cartoons and he didn't feel alone. He had, Batman there with him. And then now with the games, a lot of the younger generation, that's how they get a gateway into the character and then the movies and then the comics and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, he's always been a gateway to the character.
And look at even Grandpa Batman himself is at least 60% through Arkham City at this point.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I hit a snag though, because I think the game had a little quirk that won't let me complete it.
Oh, you hit a glitch or something?
I hit a glitch, so I started over.
Oh no.
I started over.
10 years later.
Yes.
But I wanted to jump in and just, I came to that realization what you said before, Robin, like how we perceive him with the animated series, like you said, like 1 or 2 generations ahead of us. That's the same feeling that they're getting with those video games.
Yeah.
Like that's their first scratch at Batman. So
and while that was a different, a new medium for a new generation, and he's still doing the same character, he did change with the times too. He wasn't playing it. He didn't play Bruce or Batman in those games as light as he had back in the 90s in the animated series. That it's even by the time the games have been out for years now themselves, but at the time the games were coming out, that was a different time for media in general. And everything gets darker and more edgy over time. So he wasn't playing his Bruce didn't sound as kid friendly as it did at the time of the animated series. His Batman was more gruff and intimidating. So he was around through generations and adapted with what was required for those generations.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy was a good guy. He was at the street sign unveiling for Bill Finger in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And he, he volunteered as a waiter when 9/11 happened. And
that's such a good story.
You want to tell it?
Yeah, he was he was working in like a soup kitchen kind of thing, Yeah, they were supplying food to people.
Wait, but before you even say that, the woman, because he went down there to volunteer, and the woman says, so you're an, what do you do? Because the only positions we have for volunteering are like waiter work. And he said, ma'am, I am an actor. Of course I have waiting experience. It's such a great line. But yeah, the other one was really good, Robin.
Yeah, so he ends up he's spending who knows how many hours just working in this kitchen, helping people get fed. And the one guy that he's been working with back there, eventually, I forget how it came about, but he eventually clued into who this guy was. I think it was asked, the guy said what he did or something, and he's like, I'm a teacher or something, and the guy's like, oh well, I'm a voice actor, and the guy's like, oh, I knew it was you, you're Batman. And he goes out into the room, where all these tables full of people are eating. Goes, hey, who's back here serving your food? It's Batman. and somebody sitting down there goes, fuck you, prove it.
Yeah.
And then from out of the kitchen you hear, I am justice. I am the knight. I am Batman. And everyone just
I am your waiter.
Would you like fries with that?
I'm serving vengeance and soup.
Imagine how much better that makes your day.
The whole place goes silent, and then you just hear the one guy go, holy shit, he is Batman.
Oh man.
See, the last Ghost of Christmas Night talking about, I'd say that don't be sad it's over, be happy that it happens. I mean, we couldn't ask for a better voice of Batman, just like we couldn't ask for a better animated series than Batman the Animated Series when we were all growing up. It's like, happy that it happens. And
I think it's safe to say that no time soon will anyone be on his caliber of claiming that spot.
No, you know, someone.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, a few days after it, someone at the comic shop asked me, "Well, so who's going to replace Kevin Conroy?" And I said, "Well, no one. You know, nobody out there. There isn't going to be other people will voice back. You know, we have already had other people voicing. I mean, like Roger Craig Smith did Arkham Origins. You know, so we
Jensen Ackles.
Yeah, and you know, DiMaggio that did some of the animated movies. So other people always have and always will voice Batman, but no one is. There is no next Kevin Conroy.
No, not at all.
Right.
Nothing.
Here's something that that I've found out. You know, after his passing, you know, I read a number of articles, but I've came across an article that said, you know, kind of between gigs and stuff, he would also flip houses. So how cool would it be to live in a home that Batman built?
Crazy.
That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna. You know what? I was. We all met him then, right? We all met Kevin, right?
Yep.
So that's good. I was happy that I met him, and it was very sweet, man. You know, I'm always gonna remember him as kind of like a champion of the people too. He went from not even knowing much about the character to just full on embracing everything about the character, and he was very good friends with Neil Adams. I was very good friends with Adam West, and I mean that Grey Ghost episode is gonna hit different now, isn't it, man? Like,
I put up a clip from that on my Instagram. You know, right after it happened, and that was one of the first things that I thought of was that episode.
Someone posted one where like the end scene is when Bruce is getting something signed by the Grey Ghost, and he leaves, and Bruce is like, you know, the Grey Ghost was always my hero and still is, and like, just man, that just hits different. and then Adam West is like, you know, his voice is like, so it wasn't all for nothing or something like that, and man, that's such a damn good episode in general. So it's like, yeah. That's to the ghosts of Christmas past. Yeah, I'm still watching Christmas with the Joker this year, though. You know, Christmas Eve, little tradition. Yeah, I just want to, you know, end it on a high note, saying that we got a lot of good stuff from all of these creators, and I feel like that's how you kind of immortalize yourself, you know? It's to leave something that will outlive you and still, you know, be, you know, where future generations could check out and dig, I suppose. So,
yeah. I mean, those guys left us with a legacy, and it's our job now to make sure that that legacy lives on, you know, to always remember them, you know, for the work that they did, and to help others learn about their work, you know, pass it on, you know.
Yeah. I love making suggestions, like, you know, you got to watch this episode, or you know, read this run by Tim Sale, or, you know, check out this cover by Neil Adams. It's like, just shit. It never gets old, you know. It's if it's something that good, it really never gets old. It just, you know, ages like fine wine. And
I think it's safe to say that for the next 50 years, everyone that we spoke about today will still be in the conversation and continued past that time, because like you said, everyone stayed in their own lane. They were needle movers for their own purpose, and they just can't. They're not in competition with anyone else. They are their own entity.
They all had their own lane. The ones that we discussed tonight, they all had their own lane, and that'll do it for anyone listening. Definitely hit us up on any of the social media platforms if you have, you know, any comments or suggestions or questions about these creators, so on and so forth, because it's always a cool, fun conversation. I like this forum, for that. So, and Christmas is upon us. It is December 1st. Before we go, guys, what do you guys have the one go-to Christmas movie you're gonna watch this year?
Yeah, I always watch Christmas Story. Now they have the sequel, so I want to watch that too.
The sequel was really good.
Oh,
really? Shit. Okay, good. I want to watch it.
Yeah.
There's that new David Harbour Christmas movie.
Violent Night.
Yeah.
I think that's going to turn into a classic.
I need to see that multiple times, but I need to see that
that's one I'm going to check out. I thought that it was a guy dressed up as Santa, like killing these motherfuckers, but it's actually Santa killing these motherfuckers.
Yeah. So someone, one of my friends saw it on a preview, like early access, and she said it was Die Hard meets Home Alone meets some other Christmas movie. So she said it was fucking awesome.
I can't wait.
I cannot wait to see him just fucking
fuck
people's asses.
Gramps, that's why you got to order those Santa figures with the Terminator Santa and the zombies.
Oh man.
That was that's the one I want to watch this year. But I also want to watch 8-Bit Christmas again. The everyone trying to get a Nintendo back then during the 80s. Like I kind of dug that. Brings back. Yeah.
I mean, to me, shit, the one that I want to see at least once or twice is just National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, that's the go-to, man.
Yeah, that's like I want to watch it now, but I want to savor it. Like, to me, that's like a gem. Like, I'll be lucky if I can watch it twice, but if you're gonna watch it once, you gotta like really just let December sink in a little bit. But Christmas Day, I always watch Edward Scissorhands.
Are you gonna read Noel this year, bro? Because you missed last year.
Yeah.
You gotta read it twice this year. That means Batman Noel.
I'm definitely gonna read it, man. I have 2 copies of it. One is actually on my desk at work by coincidence. So
nice.
Well, we should actually review it.
Okay, we did year 1 of Bat Force Radio, but I wouldn't mind reading it again. I'm talking about it again.
Yeah, we hopefully we'll do
we did it back when we did those crazy long reviews.
Yeah, and
we did like a page by page of Long Halloween.
Turn.
Yeah. I don't think the audio or Bat Force audiobook format was that popular, so
Yeah. This is definitely like at this certain day, there's so many good Christmas movies that just
there's a lot of
Jingle All the Way. That's always a good one.
I was thinking about that one.
Robin, you got a go-to movie for Christmas?
No, not really. Yeah, I guess I don't do a lot of movie watching at Christmas or anything.
Yeah.
BFT, I know you're gonna watch Krampus.
Gremlins, Krampus.
I forgot about Gremlins. Shit.
Yeah, try to mix it up.
Die Hard.
Klaus, is it Klaus on Netflix?
Oh yeah, the animated movie.
That's fantastic. You're right.
Gramps, it's the story of Klaus Janson.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Gramps is like, oh, Klaus. All right. Now you got my attention.
I'm in.
Klaus, instead of How We Save Christmas, it's How We Save The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh my
God. True story.
Oh
my God. Shout out to Klaus.
Year 1 Bad Force Radio, everyone be getting drunk during the Christmas episode, and you hear the jingle bells constantly ringing and shit. Good times. But that's cool. So anyway, Christmas month is upon us, so we should be getting try to get some more episodes out this month if we can. But on that note, I just want to wish everyone Merry Christmas, very happy holidays, safe, happy holidays, safe, happy New Year from from all of us here at Bat Force Radio, and hit us up on all platforms. You know where we are. So, there you go.